Everybody, part two of my tales of the unexpected, my experiences with the supernatural, apparitions, whatever you want to call it, ghosts. I'm going to tell you a very, very special encounter that happened to me. And before I begin this, I was not expecting what unfolded. It was a very strange day. I was meeting up with a friend and we hadn't seen each other for a long time. In fact, she'd just returned from doing a Shirley Valentine. She'd been living on a Greek island for 6 months and had returned. And we'd met for lunch. And we met in a place, Liverpool, which is an art centre. And she was telling me all about her adventures on this Shirley Valentine island. So, once again, ghosts was not on my mind. Spirits were not on my mind. And as we left and we were heading back towards the car park, my friend said something to me. She said, "Hey, do you fancy going to this place?" Now, I'm not going to say the name of the place because I don't want to give them advertising, right? But you can figure it out. And she said, "I want you to come and see it." She said, "Because you love it. It's fusion and very gothic. You like the interior." So I said, "Okay, why not? We're by the car park. Let's go." So in we went to this building, which I knew nothing about at all. And as I walked through the door, something grabbed me. Something so powerful. And this building used to be a church. And I had this man's voice speaking to me. And it was a monk in black. And he was angry. Very angry. Very angry that this place was now a bar and a restaurant. And he was telling me emphatically how he didn't like it. He also told me that this was a place of healing. And I'm in this place with my friend and I'm completely gobsmacked. This place used to be a church and I know nothing about it. I want to make something absolutely clear here. The way I was brought up, what I know about the Catholic religion, you could write on a lentil and still have room to sign your name. That is very important. So as we get to a certain part of this place, I had to say to my friend, "I'm really sorry, but I've got a man here who's a monk." And she looked at me and she said, "Vanessa, I've known you since you were 11. I know you're not crazy. What is it?" And I said, "He is telling me he is deeply, deeply unhappy about this situation here. This is so wrong. Monks are not happy." Then I turned and I glanced down an avenue and I could see loads of spirits in peasants' clothing, caps, waistcoats, collarless shirts. And this man said to me, "They're praying for the souls of their children." I didn't know what he was talking about. Nothing at all. Then I saw spirit children running up to me with atrocious feet. Oh, it was pitiful. A little boy, blonde hair, all matted. But his feet, oh, they were awful. The sorrow, the sadness. And I was just stunned as this was going on. So we just left then. And I knew nothing about this place. But something had stirred inside me. And I said, "What's just happened?" So I went home and I Googled it. I Googled the place because, as far as I was aware, the only knowledge I knew of this building was it belonged to the order of the Mother Teresa's nuns. Anyway, when I Googled it, shivers went through my spine because it was the oldest Catholic church in Liverpool, and it was started by Benedictine monks who were known as the Black Monks because they wore a black habit. And this is exactly what this gentleman was wearing. So I told my husband I had to go back to see what happened. I went back the next day, early morning when nobody was about, and I walked in and he came straight up to me again, straight up. And he was at pains to tell me that this was not what this place was about. He told me there was such sorrow and tragedy and what had gone on there. He said we had nothing. We couldn't help all those that needed us. He said thousands died. He said we had nothing but rags and hot water. He said we couldn't put pennies on people's eyes when we buried them because they would be stolen. It was that bad. And I'm watching this as he's showing me everything, and he's alongside me. And then the next thing, a procession of more monks walked past me. And he said to me, they're not ignoring you. He was the spokesman. He said they're in contemplation of prayer. He took me to the prayer room where I sat down. There's nobody in here. This is now a restaurant and a bar, and I'm sitting here, and he's talking to me. Across from me is another spirit. She doesn't acknowledge me. She's dressed in the clothing of a 1960s era. She's got a scarf and she wears a cream mac, but she doesn't look at me. She doesn't engage me. She's very, very sad. I don't know why. Sometimes spirit will engage with me and talk with me. And then across from her, there's a little nun wearing the garb of the Mother Teresa order. She has big brown eyes and bow legs, and she smiles, but she doesn't say anything else. She just smiles. Up the side of this building, inside, are steps, and I see more spirits going up and down the steps. And then I can see more peasants praying. This monk keeps talking to me, and he keeps telling me how unhappy he is. So I'm trying to digest this and wonder what this is all about. So I got talking to the staff, and I sort of gingerly approached the subject, and I said, has anything happened here? Anything spooky? They said, yes. Whole loads of glasses are knocked over. They said somebody had seen, and I never told them anything, a monk walk out the front door after closing time. And they swore about it. And also, none of them would go down to the crypt. Now, whilst this was going on, staff had experiences, and I never told them anything. But this monk kept on telling me. He would not leave me alone. He told me things that astounded me, which I knew nothing about. And all I can say is that when he was in my presence, the feeling was of, the only earthly way I can describe it to you is that feeling of when you give birth and for the first time you gaze upon your newborn baby in your arms. That feeling of overwhelming love was the feeling I felt from this monk, and it was powerful. Amazingly powerful. But what was even stranger was he told me that he was my guide. Now that bit didn't fit. What was a witch doing with this monk as a guide? When all my life I had stayed away from churches, because if I went near a church, I'd go up in flames. They'd have me burned at the stake. And yet, I was always drawn to Gregorian chant and I never knew why. There's more to unfold. It was the most powerful spiritual experience I have ever had to date in my life. But I wasn't sure because I'm a skeptic and I'm not a stupid woman. Far from it. So I got my husband to do some research about this church and its history. And I myself decided to do something. And I never knew this. I went into the church one day and I was sitting in the prayer room and he said to me, I'm here. If you want to see me, here I am on the wall. And there was a stone tablet with his name on it and the date of when he was there and when he died. So I had his name and the date. That's all I knew. So I decided to go to the Liverpool Records Library and do some research. And I remember sitting on the train and I'm talking to the monk in my head saying, all this stuff you're telling me about all these people dying in 1841 to 1847, right? If this is a load of rubbish, I'm going to look pretty damn stupid, right? So I walked into the records department and I said, what do you have on St. Peter's Church, Seal Street, 1841 to 1847? And the guy came up with all the records and he brought up a book called Burke's Catholic History of Liverpool. I don't know about you. I knew that Liverpool and other cities had problems with tuberculosis. What I didn't know was that what he was actually telling me about it was there in black and white. Everything he told me about the tragedy was the typhus. Typhus ravaged the city. Thousands upon thousands, especially Irish immigrants had come over, died. And he contracted typhus and he died. I just got to pause for a sec. Now this typhus plague, thousands died. And as I say, he contracted typhus and he died also. It was absolutely horrendous. And it was written in this book. And everything that he had shown me was true. All the peasants I'd seen, he explained to me what had gone on and how bad it was, how hard it was. He also used to follow me around town and I'd be walking up Bowl Street and he would change Bowl Street to the day when he was alive, which was 1841 to 1847. And when they first changed this church into a nightclub and a bar, they had to remove his body. And he is now buried, I believe, in Ampleforth Abbey. However, the spirits were very, very much alive in this place. They still are. And he told me about my life. He even brought through in my life way, way back things that I knew nothing about. And I wondered why, of all the people on this plane, why he was chosen to be my guide. But then again, spirit has its own way of doing things. His effect upon me was profound, absolutely profound. I was in town one day and he was walking alongside me. He just came. And I looked down and I could see his feet and his robe. And we're walking along and he's talking away to me. We walk up to the top of Bowl Street by the bombed out church, and he completely changed it. And I saw the cellars full of peasants, Irish peasants, and they were starving children in absolutely appalling conditions. And he's talking to me, and he's telling me he didn't like the Irish. He told me they're always at the drink. And I could hear the music of pubs and people drinking and laughter. And he was pointing out the poverty in the cellars to me. And I'm looking at these cellars and seeing these children suffering. It was quite astounding to witness, because he was showing me his life, how he's seen it at the time. And then I walked the corner and bumped into somebody I knew, and they went, "Hi, Vanessa." And I was like awakened from what I couldn't say. I've got a spirit with me here and he's telling me so much, but that broke the spell. But it was profound. And everything he said was so accurate. And everything in that place, you can go there if you want. If you've already sussed out what I'm talking about, I will tell you, it is the one place I have seen the most. I call it the House of Spirits. However, it is more like a den of iniquity at the moment. It really should be used as a hospice for children, right? He now has moved on, but he wasn't happy, right? The interesting thing about him is he wore this black habit, as did the Benedictine monks. Although he's with me and I feel his presence very strongly, this is the odd thing about Spirit. I've never seen his face. He never shows his face. And I've been told that the spirit that doesn't show the face are those closest to God. I don't know. But it was profound. The little children, rags they were dressed in, the peasants, the nuns, spirits of the nuns going up and down the stairs. And then I read a few of the staff, and the staff told me their own tales. Several had seen him, so I wasn't the only one. But the interesting thing was, on that day when I encountered that, the last thing on my mind again was Spirit. I was more interested in catching up with the old friend and speaking about his Shirley Valentine adventure. And yet, by chance, she said, "Let's go in here." And that going in there just changed my life. Never have I felt such a strong presence, but what an amazing feeling. I will never, ever forget him. He told me other things which are more personal and not really for YouTube. But if you want to find the place, I'm sure you can deduce where I'm talking about. However, you will never get me in there at night. You'll only ever see me in there when there's nobody else there. Because I wouldn't be going there for what it is today. I only go there to commune with spirits, not drink spirits, nor partake of what it is. But it was absolutely mind-blowing. More to come next time. Can't believe it. 20 minutes already. There you go. Another little tale of the unexpected. Take care. And don't forget, message me and keep subscribing. Take care. Bye.